My Friend the Sun. Hello, my name is Ramin, and welcome to the show today. Another lively and terrifying tale by the terrible and vastly expanding insanity of that devil Anruda Zith. This story is very unusual and is not likely for you. If, like your current president, you often piss yourself, yes, even in the back, while you desperately call out to your mummy wife and move so consistently in a senseless direction. Other than that, this is a fairly tame, only horrifyingly existential topics here. So without further ado, we begin tonight's story. Hey, that's not funny. Don't laugh. It's not funny. Have you ever heard of sun gazing? By itself, it certainly must seem a strange practice with not much practical value beyond the delusional and profanely distorted in the strange. I wouldn't hardly blame anyone who went cruising on by the entire practice without even a second thought. Now, things get a bit more interesting if you are a sort actually striving to count yourself among the very best, those who can truly be counted among the few truly outstanding individuals that walk presently upon the earth. How did Father put it again? I think that he said, he stands atop the highest pile of skulls and he sees the farthest. Oh, excuse me, he who stands atop. Gotta get the quotes right, you know. Sorry, I was scratching my itchy nose. I guess that the best place to begin would be probably the experiments with magnetism that I'm always so fascinated with. Those experiments started to become really interesting when I began to build things out of all the woodfall that comes out of my trees, all 9 of them that surround my land. Not sure exactly what started me down the road of that particular hobby. I guess perhaps I've always been a metal worker and a sandblaster. It was always a running joke between my boss and mentor, Marty Schoen, and woodworkers that, here's a trick a carpenter taught me once. It's never worked, but we're going to try it anyway. And of course, jokes of a similar bent going in the other direction. These were told often by woodworkers I knew. The other reason I waited so long to try woodworking was the dustiness. Sure, when you grind and sandblast steel, there is some dust as a result of those processes. It irritates constantly the skin, and I freaking hate wood dust. I finally began my foray with woodworking, almost out of environmentalist instinct, as I have 9 tall, bizarre evergreens that encircle the weird mystical pocket dimension upon which my property exists. There is an enormous amount of wood and tree fall that, well, falls out of those trees. I don't know for the life of me what inspired it, but at some point I began to make homemade bows, stabs, wood knives, and wands. For the sake of brevity, it was during the course of all this work that I expanded and began to apply the Hermetic principles I had recently been restudying. For this story, I will focus on the wands and staffs I had been making, as it is by far the most relevant to what we are discussing at the present time. Reality is much more fluid and malleable than what is normally assumed. Were I to state it rightly, it is more gaseous, solid, liquid, arid, dense, etc., etc. Near even ad infinitum. Jacob walked into the kitchen where Anruda now wrote, upon a table gifted by the very Earth Mother, though that is another long story, where he damn near fell backward at the astonishing spectacle before him. Well, I'll be damned if I hadn't dipped in horrors, Pucky. You finally started that story? Anruda raised an eyebrow. Odd then you would interrupt me now that this process is in motion. He held up both hands, backing away. As you wish, King Purple, for it be from me to interrupt the big breadwinner around here. With that, Jacob was gone, and I already forgotten where exactly I was in the story. After staring for a moment, and lamenting the steel beam that hit me in the head at my last sandblasting gig, I remembered what I was last on about. I figured out that if you made a wand with neodymium magnets, hematite or dragon chalcedony, a 4-stone, nature of the wand, and imbued it with Cherokee Silbury, it makes for a real and quite effective genuine magic wand. As I mention all that, as it pertains to my friend Zol, the sun. In the course of my sun gazing, I had learned many techniques. In the summer where we lived, there are often fires in the mountains in the east, and often they would cause an ash rain that annoyingly would last for a few days when the fires started in the summer. Under those conditions, you could observe the sun unaided without hurting your eyes. I seem to recall a few times under those conditions that I witnessed several suns. There was another thing that I noticed. When I reached up and pulled on the sun, it would bolster my workouts. Although one of the times, these astral figures that seemed to extend from the solar object appeared suddenly and all ran into my body. As strange as a development as this was, there was no damage that was apparent, even though it was completely unnerving. Since nothing similar ever occurred again, I thought nothing of it. I didn't even think anything when on a few extra occasions, I noticed more than one sun in the sky again. Hell, eventually I even filmed it and put it on YTube. Things started to get real interesting when I started collecting orgone pyramids so that I could capture and absorb light. Even more so as I set it upon sticks so that I could do it more directly. Eventually, I constructed a stick of true greatness, a wizard staff I have come to call the Lightning Lord. I built it out of an odd piece of wood I found in the yard. It took a while, but by slowly cutting a groove in the top of the stick, I was able to affix a strong fishing magnet to the top, which eventually became 3. And then I attached sticky magnets for handles, guitar string from top to the bottom for electromagnetic charge, a bottom piece with the negative towards the ground. The 4 stones, of course, were pyramids, and via string, I have attached hematite and dragon chalcedony. With the strong magnets, it became easier to catch the light, and eventually I noticed I could look through them to see the different planes. I truly caught some amazing video doing this. You see, the trouble really started when I started pulling on the sun with my staff, and it actually moved. End part 1.